Welcome to Tomorrow Never Knows with me, Bob Wilson, Sawan Brown, and author Phil Weathers. Meet the world of Dino, Desi, and Billy. Our special guest today is Billy Hinsche. He surfs right into the Beatles Kingdom, and we couldn't be more excited to have him on. First, a word from our sponsor. Beatles Ram is a 24/7 stream of Beatles tunes, John, Paul, George, and Ringo solo songs, British invasion songs, and Beatles sound-alike material. So turn off your mind, relax, and float down the 24/7 stream of free Beatles music online.
It's the Beatles from the beginning to the end. It's their solo careers. It's their humor. It's their incredible music. It's the British invasion. It's their American adversaries. It's an historical musical education. It's the Beatles and a whole lot more. A Beatles fan's paradise. It's BeatlesArama.com. Tune in. You'll love it.
Welcome, Billy Hinsche.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Good. It is great to have you on the show. And I was looking at your website, billyhinsche.com. There were many interesting things on it, but it being Father's Day, could I ask about the pictures I saw where you were taking music lessons, I believe, with your sister from your pop?
Oh, well, Pop was just standing there conducting and enjoying. My sister and I always had music tutors, usually women. I don't think I ever had a male music teacher. It's possible, but mostly female teachers. Growing up, my father was very big into, us learning a musical instrument, and piano seemed to be the logical, obvious one. And we always had a piano in the home. So yeah, always had a tutor.
Well, those are really beautiful pictures, and I happened to be looking at this time, at the site, and it was great to see Father's Day. And on there also there were movies, a store, pictures, news,
Uh-huh.
bios, and many other things. But when you came over to America from the Philippines, could you tell us a little bit about that and what it was like to come over here to, I believe you moved straight to California?
Sure, yeah. Well, I was this many years old, three.
Okay.
My sister was a year and a half older than me. We had a beautiful home in Manila proper. My father was a businessman. He ran a supper club and casino. A little prior to that, he was a POW for 3 years during the occupation of Manila as a civilian. So he's a real hero to me
Bless
uh,
him.
that he survived that. No fun at all. So we moved to, actually, initially, we moved to an apartment building um, on the Wilshire corridor near MacArthur Park. Ironically, General Douglas MacArthur was my dad's hero for liberating the Philippines. Maybe you guys know a little history. And Douglas MacArthur, his famous, you know, uh, quote of "I shall return," and he did. So it's ironic that we lived in the Bryson Apartments on Wilshire, right near MacArthur Park. We were there about 6 months, maybe, and then Pop got a duplex in a little bit on the outskirts of Beverly Hills, but still not in the heart of Beverly Hills, but Beverly Hills nonetheless. And that's where we spent a couple of years. That was on Smithwood Drive, and then we moved to 722 North Foothill Road, right in the heart of Beverly Hills, in the flats of Beverly Hills, and we had an idyllic childhood and upbringing, and we had really great parents. So we were fortunate, my sister and me, to have such a wonderful upbringing and childhood.
Well, that was an amazing story about your dad, especially for Father's Day. I'm glad that he made it through that, and bless him. Wow, that was probably something really to go through, and you must really have a lot of love for your dad there. Um,
Oh
when
yeah,
you were in grammar school, you had some famous classmates. I think some of their names are on your nifty hat there that I think fans can or listeners can get from your website. How did you wind up in a band with two of those fellows?
real simple answer. We were friends. We went to school together. We were classmates. Simple as that. Well, Dino and I were best friends before we ever met Desi and his sister Lucy. Dino came to Beverly Hills Catholic Good Shepherd with his brothers and sisters. Ricky was younger and Dino was older. And Dino and I became best friends. We were inseparable. Spent many hours at the Martins home, and Dino spent many hours at the Hinchy home. and best friends, did everything together. And then the Arnezes came to school, and Lucy Arnez was our classmate, Dino's and mine, and Desi was a couple years younger. So when Dino and I got bit by the bug, the Beatle bug, that is, we started honing our skills on guitar. I had some background in music, as we talked about, and I showed Dino a couple of chords. We played some simple songs, and then we realized, well, maybe we should have a group. One more guy would make a group. You know, right now we're a duo. So we asked Desi one day in the school playground if he'd like to be in our band as our drummer. And he said, sure. And that's the real short answer, real simple answer to your question.
Well, it's pretty incredible for, you know, as a fan of you guys and as a fan of the Beach Boys, it's incredible to picture you guys in the pulling a band together. Now, you guys ended up signing with, I believe, Frank Sinatra's record label. That's pretty, you know, most people would be pretty stunned by that. What was that experience like? How did it come about?
Well, we had been rehearsing at Big Dean's house. I call it Dean Martin's home. And apparently I found out years later, Jeannie Martin, Dean's wife, called Mr. Sinatra and said, you know, you got to come over here and listen to the kids. They've got a band and they're really good. And because she knew he had a label, Reprise. And so one day we went over to Dino's house, the three of us, and sure enough, there's Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra down there sitting by the bar. Where else would Dean and Frank be? In the kitchen?
Very cool image.
Yep, there they were, old Blue Eyes and old Red Eyes. So we did a little audition, and they were all both very respectful and attentive and serious, and you know, we appreciated that they taking this thing seriously. We finished our set. Mr. Sinatra and Dean walked over, and Mr. Sinatra said, "How'd you boys like a contract with my label, Reprise?" And we said, "Sure, Mr. Sinatra," in that voice that I just used. Because in 1964, I was 13, and I was the old man of the group. So, yeah, it was pretty heady stuff, but that's how we got started. Simple as that. And the only other acts on Reprise at that time, it was a very eclectic group, I thought. Well, naturally, Dean, Frank, Sammy Davis Jr., right? Trini Lopez, Don Ho, I believe, and the British invasion group, the Kinks, who I was a big fan of, and ended up meeting Ray Davies quite a few years later, and we became friends.
I just have to ask, at that age, because they were your friends, none of this must have seemed so abnormal to you. When you look back, do you kind of get a little sort of like, wow, that was fairly even, you know, it was your life, your place, your friends. But when you look back, do you think, wow, that was kind of incredible?
It was very incredible. Yeah, but you're right. At the time, we just took it as a matter of course. I mean, I think we were too young to be in too much awe. We just was sort of going with the flow here, you know. And it just happened that the cards that we were dealt were good ones, and we were at the right place at the right time, kind of a thing. And the just incredible kismet, if you will, of being in this mid '60s when all this other great music was happening, and these other great groups were emerging, and not just the Beatles, but all the British invasion groups. Of course, I love the Beatles. I saw them twice at the Hollywood Bowl. And I regret never having met George Harrison, but I've had close encounters with the other three guys. So, yeah. But looking back, yeah, pretty amazing. Well, let's say if I were to compare myself to other friends who were that age at that time, or anyone else at that age at any time, to be that young was pretty interesting and wonderful. And I like to tease my friend John Cowsill, saying, Dino, Desi, and Billy led the way for you. We laid the foundation for young groups like you. And he doesn't deny it, you know, because we were the youngest. All the other groups of the day were 5-10 years older than we were. And that's still the case, you know. I'm in my 60s, and everybody else in those other groups, they're in their 70s or beyond, you know what I mean? So.
Well, we usually feature the Beatles, but we love the Beach Boys and Dino, Desi, and Billy. And I just have to ask, you mentioned you met the Beatles and you saw them at the Hollywood Bowl, which
Twice.
twice, not once, but twice. So that's pretty neat. Do any memories of any of that come to your mind first that you can share with us?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was insanity. I mean, it was just like what you'd read about, Beatlemania and all that. And I was a big fan. My sister loved the Beatles, and everybody that I knew loved the Beatles. And they came out after the big build-up, shake it up, baby, now, shake it up, baby, twist and shout, twist and shout. Come on, baby, now, come on and work it on out, work it on out. And they did their 20, 30-minute set. Thank you, thank you.
All right.
And just incredible. And, I was listening to a show that somebody sent me today of the, a 60s era LA show, and I heard this song. Let me get the right key here. If you were ready tonight, remember what I said tonight. For red is the color that my baby wore, and what's more, it's true. Yes, it is, it's true. I've forgotten how wonderful.
Yes, it is.
That song is top notch and on top of my charts, Bill. Thank you for that.
If I were to do a solo show, which I am doing, you may have noticed, that would be, I would include that song. I love it that much.
And that's great.
It's hard to pick the Beatles' favorites. It's like trying to pick the Beach Boys' favorites. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
There's so many. Now,
Yeah.
mentioning those Beach Boys, in 1965, if I'm correct, you opened up for them. That might have been the first time you came in contact with them.
it
And that
was.
led to a long stretch of road. And what happened when you guys met? Was it all at once you became friends? Did it take a little time? What happened?
July 3rd, 1965, we played the Hollywood Bowl with, listen to this bill. It was called the Summer Spectacular. It was in two parts. There were so many acts. Listen to who was on the show. Ian Whitcomb, rest his soul. He was a British rocker. He's sort of a novelty singer, but a great guy. Donald Lauren, Sir Douglas Quintet, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, Sonny and Cher. I think that was the first half of the show.
Wow.
Then, intermission, the Righteous Brothers, the Byrds,
Wow.
Dino, Desi, and Billy, the Kinks, and then the Beach Boys. So you tell,
Wow.
all for $250, and I don't mean 250.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
or that was the low end ticket. I think the high end ticket was $650 or something.
That's still not bad.
Yeah. So then the Beach Boy, we met them at sound check. They were all there. Brian was there because it was LA, and he, it was easy for him to play. He'd already pretty much retired from the road at that point. But since you didn't have to fly anywhere, he didn't care for travel that much and was working at home. They were all there. That's where we met, and it was an instant friendship. Guys were great. Dennis and Desi and Carl and me were all, gravitated to each other. And anyway, it was wonderful. And they took us under their wing. And I think they might have seen a little bit of themselves in us. You know what I mean? We were so young. They got started young, but, they didn't make it till they were a bit older. Yeah, and they took us on the road. The package was Dino, Desi, Billy, and Barbara Lewis. Remember her? Baby, I'm yours. Baby, I'm yours. And I'll be yours till the sun no longer shines. Remember that song, guys? Are you too young?
Yes. Sure did.
Barbara Lewis.
Awesome.
So that was the package. GG&B, Barbara Lewis, and the Beach Boys. They took us to Bakersfield, Fresno, and Hawaii.
Wow.
I think they took us to Hawaii to make up for taking us to Bakersfield and Fresno.
How old were you at that time?
In 65, I'm 14, and I'm still the old man in the group.
Wow.
But I mean, you're on tour going to Hawaii with the Beach Boys and all these acts. That's mind blowing. Did they Like, did Lucy come along as a chaperone or something?
Lucille Ball? No way.
Huh.
No. She was a
Well,
little bit. She was a little bit busy working and running her empire.
right.
Of course, of course.
Just to let you know, Billy, Lucy is my great aunt.
Is that right? Where's the connection? Through the Ball family or what?
Yes. I don't know for sure. I never met her or anything. I just know from what my mother and father has told me about her. But I never met her or anything. I just know that she was a great aunt of mine.
Well, how are you there? Hello, cousin.
All
Nice to meet you.
right. I thank you very much for that. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Mrs.
Bob.
Trumbull from I Love Lucy was my second cousin on my father's side. No, I made that up. But I hand it over to Phil now because he has some questions for you. Thank you. Those were excellent answers.
Billy, it's great to talk to you. How, you were talking about like the shows where you played, there were different groups, different artists. How long did you guys play? Did you play like 2 or 3 songs? Did you play 30 minutes, or was it just one song and you were done?
No. It was like a 20-minute set. That was average for most of the groups of the day. I mean, the Beatles only did like 30 minutes. You know that.
Right.
Yeah, like the acts that I mentioned at the Hollywood Bowl, they did their hits. You know what I'm saying? They did a couple, 2, 3 songs, which was about 15, 20 minutes. And, they were done, to answer your question. But Dino, Desi, and I did our own tours, our own shows. Though we opened for the Beach Boys, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, we went out and did full-on shows, that were longer than just that.
Right. Now, did you forge friendships with those guys like Paul Revere and the Raiders, Sam the Sham, or was it
Absolutely.
just kind of you did?
Absolutely. I'm not. I mean, I consider Sam, the Sham, which of course is obviously not his real name, but yeah, I consider him a friend. Though I haven't seen him in all these years. I hope he's doing well. The Raiders, that's another story because Sam, I think, was out of Texas. He wasn't in an LA group in other words, whereas the Raiders were. And so Mark Lindsay is a friend to this day. Fang is a friend to this day. Paul is no longer with us, rest his soul, but absolutely forged. Those are lifelong friendships. In fact, I'm on a new TV series that's being pitched. It's a rock youth series called Where the Action Was.
Wow.
Remember the show Where the Action Is?
Yes.
The Dick Clark show that the Raiders were on quite frequently. So some guys in town here are putting together a package of which I was just interviewed, and Mark will be the host of this. So though Mark didn't interview me, Mark will be hosting, and they'll cut to me. I mean, you get the idea. A documentary TV show where they'll show a clip and cut to somebody making a comment. You get the idea, right?
Right.
So yeah, still friends to this day. Peter Noon is a good friend to this day. He did a PSA announcement for me for my Facebook page. You may have seen that. Gary Lewis, though I didn't meet him back in the 60s, if you can believe it, though we were just a few miles away. Dino, Desi, and I grew up in Beverly Hills. He was in Bel Air, just a few miles away. But once again, because he was a few years older than us, I think, was one of the reasons we just never met. So yeah, there were definitely lifelong friendships forged from the 60s. Roger McGuinn of the Byrds, very dear.
Wow. One of my favorite songs is These Boots Are Made for Walking. Did you ever meet Nancy Sinatra? All right.
Yes.
Awesome. Great deal.
I love that song.
Well, Lee Hazelwood wrote that for her. Lee was Dino, Desi's, and Billy's record producer, if you didn't already know that. And he went on to have a career of his own. And with Nancy, they did a couple of songs together, Jackson. And, he was a great writer. He wrote our second song after I'm a Fool. He wrote, your mind. And
All right.
hang on. Let's see. So yeah, I met Nancy a few times. We did an RC Cola commercial, Dino, Desi, and I, that was aired on her Moving with Nancy television special. Go check it out. It's on YouTube.
Okay, I'll do that. That's great. This is kind of a different type question, but I believe you guys were kind of immortalized by the Chipmunks with the song "I'm a Fool."
I keep hearing that. I wasn't really aware. I better go look that up, you know. Well, it's funny because I played Little League with a guy named Ross Bagdasarian Jr., and then I came to find out that name really didn't have much meaning for me. But then I came to find out that his father was Ross Bagdasarian, who was the creator of the Chipmunks. So there you have it.
All right.
Little tie-in there, huh? No, I think it's great. What the heck? I think it's hysterical also. I've got to hear it. In fact, I'm going to go listen to it as soon as we hang up.
That's cool. Tell us about, I know the Dean Martin film, Murderer's Row.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Martin made 4 Matt Helm movies. Let's see if I can remember them all. The Silencers, Murderer's Row, The Ambushers, and The Avengers, I think. And Gino, Desi, and I were going to be cast as just the group that was playing in this nightclub disco scene. And this was a spoof on James Bond, you know, Dean being, the James Bond character, but very tongue-in-cheek, very lighthearted. And we had recorded a song written by Boyce and Hart. Do those names ring a bell for you guys?
Yes.
They should, because they wrote for the Monkees and others. They gave us a song. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, we don't have to say a word. And if you're thinking what I'm thinking, then your heart's already heard. When I smile, you know exactly what I mean. And then we had that, very incredible, female Elvis in Anne Margaret. She was in the show, and so
Wow.
that was pretty fantastic getting to do a scene with her. And so yeah, that was a great experience. You can still see that on television every now and again. They'll run it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I think Dino, Desi, and Billy also did music for the surf film "Follow Me."
Well,
Any
you boys have done
thoughts on
your
that?
research, haven't you? You boys have done your homework.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was cool. We went to the premiere. I remember we got in a limo and drove down to Huntington Beach, which is, a ways from Beverly Hills, not too far. And it was a surf film a la Endless Summer, the surf film, but not so much a documentary style, but it was a storyline written into this movie that was, there was some romance involved. I haven't seen it in so long, but that also you can find on YouTube. Let's see. Through spray-colored glasses, the world seems so beautiful, and I know if you will just free your mind, soon you'll be on your way with us. Won't you stay with us? Boy, I'm really kicking out the songs today, aren't I, guys?
Yes, you are. You're doing a great job.
I don't know what got into me. I was just going to talk my way through this one.
Now that you played so many songs, I have to confess, this is Bob Wilson. I'm not really related to Brian, Carl, or Dennis, but thanks for being on the show anyway.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. And I'm going to close with this by special request. I sail an ocean, and sail an ocean, and dance through restful waters and deep commotion, often fighting, unenlightened. Sail on, sailor. I rest the waters, fight waters, we'll sail through the sorrows of life's marauders, often empty, unrepenting. Sail on, sail on, sailor. God, like a sewer rat, alone, but I sail. Bought like a crust of bread, oh, do I wail. Seldom stumble, never tumble, try to tumble, life's a rumble. Feel the stinging I've been given, never ending, unrelenting. Heartbreak searing, always fearing, never clearing, persevering. Sail on, sail on, sail on. I work the seaways, oh the seaways, gale swept seaways. Past shipwrecked daughters of wicked waters, uninspired, drenched and tired. Wail on, sail on. Always feeling, even bleeding, never feeling all my feelings. Damn the thunder, must I blunder? There's no wonder, all I'm under. Stop the crying and the lying and the sighing and my dying. Sail on, sail on, sail on. Sail on, sail on, sail on. Sail on, sail on, sail on. Sail on, sail on, sail on.
All right. Good job, Billy.
Let it not be said I did not deliver the grits and groceries, gentlemen.
You definitely did. The first concert I ever saw was the Beach Boys. My sister and her boyfriend brought me when I was 10, and you sang that song, and I never forgot it. So I just got chills at that memory, and thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome. My tongue got in the way of my eye teeth, and I couldn't see what I was singing. I flubbed a few words, but you'll forgive me, I hope.
Hey, where can we find your podcast when the listeners want to go and find it? And we know your website is billyhinsche.com with all kinds of great things and pictures. It's, definitely worth taking out. Where do we find this podcast?
Yeah, but just to add to if you visit my website, I have DVDs that I've made. I'm a film major, UCLA, and I made wonderful documentaries about On the Road with the Beach Boys and all kinds of other things. You can look at the trailers just for fun. No charge whatsoever, just to check it out. And then, I also teach piano and guitar. In fact, I have a lesson coming up in a little while. I have a student up there in Utah. I have students all over the world. If your listeners, if they have someone in the family or a friend that would like lessons from me, I have a little bit of experience. My Facebook page is where they can find my archived podcasts, live streaming. I've done 13 so far. I did number 13 last night about performing for President Reagan and Vice President Bush, and 3 shows in one day. It's quite a memorable day, to say the least. And so, facebook.com/Billy.Hinsche. And you can find me on Instagram, too, under @HinscheBilly. And you need to spell my name correctly. It's HINSCHE. And thank you so much, guys. I got to run. And thank you for including me in your show.
This one was unforgettable for me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
Happy Father's Day and blessings of peace on America in these crazy times. May things pick up with healing and peace.
I agree.
And be safe out there, Billy.
You too. Bye, guys.
Thank you. And blessings on Father's Day to you.
Yeah, happy
Bless-
Father's Day to
Happy
everybody.
Father's Day.
Blessings to you and all the fathers of the world.
You
Thank you.
got it. Thank you.
You guys ready?
It's the Beatles from the beginning to the end. It's their solo careers. It's their humor. It's their incredible music. It's the British invasion. It's their American adversaries. It's an historical musical education. It's the Beatles and a whole lot more. A Beatles fan's paradise. It's BeatlesArama.com. Tune in. You'll love it.